Gracias. Muy bien, pues buenos días.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Guillermo Álvarez. I come from the Center for Industrial Technological Development. Some of you probably know us already. This is more or less what we do in CDTI. We are a public business institution, depending on the Ministry of the Economy, Industry and Competitiveness. We are the Spanish agency for funding innovation, and we are the Spanish representative at several international initiatives. So this is more or less what we are, and this is more or less what we do, the main duties of CDTI. We fund research and development and innovation projects with our own funds, as well as with structural funds. We manage structural funds. And what brings me here this morning to this conference is this second box in which I highlight the main international responsibilities of CDTI. CDTI is the Spanish representative at the main initiatives to fund products of R&D and I in the European Union, the well-known Horizon 2020 program. We also take part and manage in other projects, such as Eureka, Eurostars, Iberica, and we have bilateral agreements with other agencies like ours in other countries to fund technological cooperation projects. And this is more or less the core of my presentation. On the one hand, I'll try to show what opportunities there are out there for cybersecurity, the Horizon 2020 program for the next 3 years, what's left of the program, and what other opportunities there are out there to fund innovative projects in collaboration with international operators for some of our other lines. And in this other box, another responsibility that we have at CDTI, which is to be the representative from Spain before the European Aerospace Agency. I'm here to address the Horizon 2020. The other part we thought was interesting, but we could bring it forward. However, if there are any specific questions, it may be more difficult for me to answer it, as it's not my basic line of work. So, focusing on Horizon 2020, a few brushstrokes as to what this is all about. As I said, this is a framework program to fund research and development and innovation in the EU. It's a 7-year-long initiative. This edition started in 2014 and will conclude in the year 2020 with an overall budget of 75 million euros. This global budget is growing year after year. So we only have the years 18, 19 and 20, and we still have more than 30 billion euros of budget to fund projects from here to the end of the program. So it's a time when there are still many opportunities to fund R&D and I projects. The goals are, like for any previous edition of the framework program, this one was called Horizon 2020, but actually it's the 8th edition of the framework program, which date back to the 1980s, the framework programs. So this program has had a lot of development with the passing of time. They have changed the structuring and the goals, but in this 8th edition called Horizon 2020, it's focused on research and innovation in order to bridge the gap between knowledge creation and reach in the market. So that's a critical point and precisely one of the aims that the Horizon 2020 program wishes to bridge a gap to bridge. It's a part of the European 2020 strategy. It's the main initiative to fund research and innovation at the European level, and it focuses on social challenges. That's another novelty under Horizon 2020, to try to fund projects more from the user end, solutions, and looking into which options there are to solve such social problems that arise. And as such, one of the social problems that was defined from the very beginning of the program was security in the broader sense. I'll go into more details of this definition. Another main feature of Horizon 2020 is that it aims at creating partnerships, public associations between the European funding and the member states' national funding, as well as public-private partnerships to reflect in the initiatives launched by Horizon 2020, which are the concerns of the industry through such partnerships and creating a common entity among them to define lines of research that will, of course, continue to be relevant to solve the aforesaid social problems. And yet they have to be very much focused on the concerns of the industry. So these are results that will make it easier to reach the market, easier than if they didn't have these initiatives. Besides international cooperation, it's a European program funded by European funds. It's a competitive program, so any European institution may compete for the same funding on equal terms. But it's also an open program. Institutions or entities from other countries, even outside of the EU, even non-associate countries, may also take part and in some conditions may also fund their collaboration projects together with European institutions or within the scope of the Horizon 2020 program. This is the structure, basically 3 pillars: science, excellent science, which is based on the creation of knowledge; industrial leadership, the middle pillar, more focused on technologies that facilitate development, such as ICTs, nanotechnology, biotechnology, advanced materials, advanced manufacturing and processing; a specific program to fund innovation in SMEs; and the final pillar, which is that of social challenges, as defined 7 fields in which the solutions that we are searching must be focused: health, nutrition, energy, transport, the environment, socio-economic sciences, and finally secure societies to protect freedom and the freedom of Europe and its citizens. This is where we have, where we probably have more funding opportunities for cybersecurity projects. So where do we stand now? We have 3 years left under this program, and these 3 years are practically fully defined. In a few weeks' time, the next working program will be published, with the lines that will be funded from 2018 up until 2020, up until the end of the project. Some of the lines have been pre-published, but officially they are not adopted yet. As I said, it's a good moment, it's a good time, there is still money available, and there still may be many opportunities to fund innovative projects. This working program for 2018-2020 is going to have 4 specific focus areas for all the lines that are to be funded. Creating a low-carbon society, a circular economy, a digitized society, and the fourth one, most relevant to this meeting, is to boost the effectiveness of the security union. As the Commission says, I've added the paragraph that defines this focus area, and I highlight in red what I find most relevant, which is protecting infrastructures against natural and man-made threats, including cyber attacks, digital security. I think many of you will be reflected in this line. Taking a closer look at what lies inside this focus area, there is a mission focused on 5 items. Then number 3 would be improved infrastructures, or better protected, and finally a more secure digital environment, which is once again touching on the topic of this conference. And the opportunities that are going to be focused on those two lines that I selected in red are going to be worded into all those programs. More specifically, the ones in red will correspond to those three programs in red. If I go back to what I just showed you, the structure of the program, there will be opportunities for cybersecurity in the health program, as well as a couple of others, including that of Secure Society. How is this funded? The program Horizon 2020 is competitive, and it's a top-down approach in principle. It's not open up to any other topic. The lines of funding are defined as to what is going to be funded. As I said, they're about to be published, and one must adapt to those research lines if they wish to obtain funding for the project. So if we have a good idea, as the Horizon 2020 approaches, we have to identify which research line best fits into our project, and there will be more opportunities for funding there. In any project, the first thing, of course, is to have a clear idea as to the political context. Concretely, the political context in terms of cybersecurity, we have narrowed down to those four tenets: communication, resilience, deterrence and defense, building strong cybersecurity for the EU. That's a communication by the Commission. The proposed regulation on ENISE, this ought to be also taken into account when trying to fit our projects there. The communication, making the most of ENISE and the ENISE assessment reports and the advanced reports from the member states on compliance of the directive on cyber attacks. If you click on either of those links, you will find more documentation on these issues. The idea is to be able to fit in our project. The Horizon 2020, well, this year it's the first time that a specific call is going to be opened for cybersecurity. The PPP of cybersecurity. PPP is the acronym for public-private partnerships. In other words, a partnership between the public and private sectors in which the Commission is present as well as the industry, and they bring together some lines of research. They decide on which ones are interesting to be funded, and the Commission then provides the money and ensures funding for such lines. This PPP here, the contractual PPP for cybersecurity, that's why there's a C before the PPP, it's for contractual. It was signed in July of 2016, and it's subscribed by the Commission and by EXO. EXO is a European cybersecurity organization with more than 200 members. EXO has drawn a roadmap. They know where they want to go. They know which lines ought to be researched from here to 2020. And what the Commission does and what EXO does before launching the call, they're going to say, we're going to fund this line with so much money, we're going to fund this other line with this other money, etc. The advantage of a PPP in light of a call is that you can be assured that the roadmap is going to be funded in the next 3 years, and that you have your funding insured. The Commission has reserved 450 million euros to fund projects that will fit into the lines of the roadmap from here to 2020. And the private part in this partnership must ensure, on the one hand, the roadmap, and then ensure that such investment in research will translate into private investment of at least 3 times what the Commission is bringing forward. This leverage is defined in the most global way possible. You will not find in a PPP project a commitment to 2 million euros and having to add 6. No, it's not the way it works. Whatever the project is, the assumption is that the outcome of the project shall achieve private investment 3 times of what was originally invested publicly, but that's in the future. It's not necessarily in the actual development of the project. Opportunities for 2018-2020. Of course, for cybersecurity, most of them are going to lie within this PPP, although, of course, under programs of ICTs or security or social sciences. No, sorry, secure societies, the speaker is correcting himself. There are opportunities there. I have tried to identify which lines are going to be funded from 2018 to 2020 that could be of interest for cybersecurity projects. These are the ones that you may find in the ICT program. In bold type, I have highlighted those of 2018. So projects are going to be funded for the dynamic countering of cyber attacks. That's going to be funded in 2018. There are 40 million euros reserved to fund projects under this kind. It is expected that projects will have between 4 to 5 million euros each. So there will be a window here to fund some 6 to 8 projects this year. More into the future, we have projects for 2019, November of 2019, and the last one, the bottom date is a mistake. It should be 2018, not 2019, not 2018. It'll be also funded in that year. I draw your attention that these things are published in April and they are closed in August. So we have to have a clear idea as to what lies within the research line. I've just brought the title. If we go to the working program, of course, we shall have a much longer, clearer definition and the scope, the impact expected, the type of instruments that we'll have to use, etc. So much better defined what it all exactly is about. Apart from safe or secure societies, I have highlighted these 5 topics, 3 of them for the year 2018, of course, very much focused on cybersecurity. All these topics are closed in August, so we still have some time, but not too much, to draft a proposal for this kind of programs. On average, costs between 5 to 6 months of work. So we don't really have much time ahead of us in order to do this. So let's not waste it and be attentive to whatever we might come across our pathway. And for health in the year 2018, there are these 2 topics. Overall, it will be 36 million reserved. And this one is even more urgent, in case you're interested. Start getting your act together, because the call will close in February. That's in a very short period of time. Where to get more information on these topics? Well, the first thing I'm going to highlight are 2 events. The first one is this one, the ICT Proposals Day 2017, which is going to be held in Budapest, if I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere around the corner in November, beginning of November of this year. There's going to be a specific session on cybersecurity. If anyone is thinking or has some idea for a project along these lines, I'm certain that you will find very good information there. And there's going to be a brokerage event organized in case you're missing a partner, so you can publicize your project and seek a partner to go together and wrap the consortium up. The second element I wanted to highlight is this one, the session to prepare the call for 2018, in this case in Brussels, 14th and 15th of November of this year. There's the link. This is more specific to security, and there will be a specific session on cybersecurity. Where to find more information? Here is a link where you can find more information at the EU Commission's website. And below that's the Spanish portal. There is a Spanish portal to collect the funding opportunities for the Horizon 2020 program. The address is www.eshorizonte2020.es. We manage this from the ministry. You can find there all the information, all the agenda, all the documents, all the events that may be of interest for your theme areas. Go and take a look, please. And here, the most important part of my presentation, this address. Maite Boyero is the person who takes care of the Secure Society programs at CDTI, and she has all the information on this program in the field of security and cybersecurity. So if you have any doubts, please contact Ms. Boyero, who will be delighted to help you out. So far, so good for Horizon 2020. I didn't want to leave without mentioning other opportunities for international funding of innovation that we have available from CDTI. These are the programs that we have outside of Horizon 2020. It's basically Eureka, the Iberoeca, so Eureka focused on Europe, but also with the participation of Canada, Korea, and Russia, and South Africa to fund projects of innovation. Iberoeca, more focused on Latin America. Then we have bilateral agreements signed with Canada, of course, but I could put two colors: Canada, China, India, Korea, and Japan, by which we may use the counterpart agencies in those countries to agree to fund projects. They will fund their participants and we will fund ours. The global features of these programs are the following. First is that they are very close to the market. What is expected to be achieved with is to launch a new product. I think the calendar is within 5 to 6 years. So they have to be mature projects. It has to have innovation in the product, process, or service. This is clearly bottom-up philosophy. We're not going to find priority lines or working programs. Anyone who has an idea and the chance to collaborate in a project that needs international cooperation and having identified international partners in any field, in any area of knowledge cooperation may approach CDTI and request funding. And of course, they all require international cooperation. In other words, they are not projects that can be done by national entities only. They need some party in the rest of Europe or the world where the other institutions will also become a part of the development of the project. What services are at your disposal? First of all, way to find partners. You may have a good idea, but you cannot identify who are your potential partners. So we help in seeking these potential partners. We have an external network, and we have some 30 offices in many different countries. Therefore, we have representation enough to identify potential partners. We advise in the establishment of the proposal. Our tools for funding are the best that we have in CDTI. Of course, we know the fine detail of each program. As we are the ones to assess these projects, we have somewhat more flexibility. It's not a question of launching the proposal and then coming the assessment. In this case, it's more like a negotiation. Someone brings forward an idea to us, and we agree up until a moment in which we all agree to everything, and we reach a funding agreement. Of course, the support of the external network, as I said before, in these more than 30 countries, and we also help to promote these results internationally. The basic features. There are several ways of funding this kind of projects at the international level. The first is the most classical one, and CDTI has been for 40 years involved in funding projects for businesses without subcontracting, and this is an eligible cost. The subcontracting of other institutions is regarding technological centers, etc. But we sign the contract with the company, and we our aid is like a loan up to 75% of the overall budget of the project, and with a special feature for the international ones, because 33% of the credit does not need to be returned as it's international. So this could add up to a total partial subsidy for 33% of the project, which is the best we have managed to achieve so far. Besides, we can fund this through Global, which is direct funding, direct subsidy, but it's an annual competitive situation. Every year we have to have the proposals submitted by a certain year and declare which ones are more consumption orientated. And then we have the specific case of Eurostars, which is a program launched by the Commission to support the Eureka network funding projects of innovative SMEs. Once again, it's a bottom-up approach. Any theme pertaining to the project, of course, cybersecurity being the number one. This is one of the fields where we have most proposals sent to be funded with direct subsidies by a call for international bidders. In general, we may encounter funding opportunities with these programs in countries that add up to more than 92% of the world GDP. We have to be very unlucky to launch a project with some of the countries and we have no ways of funding the Spanish part of the project. Overall, they are going to require not much administrative load. These are simple proposals to prepare and submit. We follow up the entire process with even prior counselling and counselling during the program and the assessment afterwards. We do it all from CDTI, and so you may count on our assistance to this respect. All, as I said, are bottom-up approaches, a totally open implementation without having to adjust to certain priority lines. So you bring us the idea and we can start assessing potential funding. And as I said, the funding we offer for these programs is the most advantageous one that we have at CDTI. Success rates. I brought it here, I didn't put it at the Horizon 2020. That's the bad news for the Horizon 2020, because we were speaking of direct subsidy through funding in some cases if the project is far from the market, 100% of the direct costs, whereas 70% in other projects that are closer to the market, and they require direct subsidization and funding. The features are different, but it's competitive, highly competitive funding. We are now in the fourth anniversary of this program, and we have a 10% success rate. In other words, 1 out of every 5 proposals submitted ends up by being financed or funded. No, sorry, 1 out of 10. The speaker is correcting himself. What means that, first of all, it's a program that raises a lot of interest among the institutions, but which is difficult to achieve. Under these programs, the success rates are totally different. As you can see, in subsidy interest it's around 30%, and for credit it's around 60% of success rate. In other words, you have many chances that your project will be finally funded. And we also contribute, as a service, that we are our knowledge in these countries as to how to follow up not only the Spanish participant but also the knowledge about the country. This is going to help us find funding for the party in the other country, and that's where we support our network on the external network. This is about it. As I said before, this is perhaps one of the most important slides in my presentation. Up here, I'll leave you the contact. Once again, Maite, as an expert in secure societies, and you can have my own email address in case you have more general questions. I'll leave you the contact of 2 other colleagues from CDTI, Oscar Fernandez, who is in charge of the Eureka program. He's your man if you're into this. And then we have the multilateral programs, and any question here, please address it to Emilio Iglesias, the other colleague who is involved in these topics. That's all, folks. If you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them, or try to at least.
Nada más.